Dear Christian, brothers and sisters in God and God's Son Jesus Christ, we were told in the Bible that God created everything, the seen and unseen. On the end of the creation He looked over and saw everything is good. Nowadays, we humans, God's creation, better said some of us humans, they are trying to modify everything God created and checking it saw to be good. This small group of people with our money in hidden places are working on nefarious projects that are not in line with God's approval. On the side of modifying crops and farm animals, they step up some. First genetically edited gene injected into human, was announced, here I must say what is announced out loud to us, is somewhat older news, technical breakthrough. This assumption is based on long history of suppression of knowledge, and news, that is highly notorious of those that control media and technology, but now they say, scientists are now on the cusp of creating a more perfect human, one that could avoid major diseases and live well past the centuries. Race for what? Who will be the first to profit billions on the treatment? Or race who will make the first fully functional, zombie, Quasimodo, or super soldier? Race who will be the first to really make God angry? So the story goes. If you haven't heard of CRISPR as yet, you soon will. The new gene editing technique is poised to revolutionize the way we treat disease, by offering scientists a quick and easy way to cut and paste genes from our DNA. CRISPR/Cas9 basically works like a pair of molecular scissors. Researchers just need to program it, and it can cut out certain genes, or add new ones, far more cheaply and quickly than any previous genetic tools. The introduction of CRISPR, which is simpler and more efficient than other techniques, will probably accelerate the race to get gene-edited cells into the clinic across the world. Carl June, an immunotherapy specialist at the University of Pennsylvania, told the science journal Nature. In some previous report on gene therapy in which Christian ethics experts predict new gene therapy treatments will not be made available to ordinary Americans and may already be given to elite members of the political class. I think this is going to trigger Sputnik 2.0, a biomedical duel on progress between China and the United States, said June, the advisor for a planned U.S. clinical trial that will use CRISPR to target 3 genes in participants' cells, with the goal of treating various cancers. He expects the trial to start in early 2017. And in March 2017, a group at Peking University in Beijing hopes to start 3 clinical trials using CRISPR against bladder, prostate, and renal cell cancers. If paid for by insurance, the new technology could be a blessing for millions of cancer patients. But some warn there could be a dark side to this scientific advance. They are researchers who have been warning about the dangers of transhumanism for years. Transhumanism is a transnational technocratic trend that promises to break through human biological limitations by radically redesigning humanity. This story confirms what we predicted recently, that it would be no time at all before this technology was applied to humans. It holds great promise in new disease therapies but immeasurable peril due to its capacity to make germline genetic modifications, which would be passed on to all future generations, not to mention planned extinctions through gene drive technology, which is already past proof of concept. Among the most controversial aspects of CRISPR-Cas9 research and development are the experiments in genetic modification, even that of human infants, animal/human hybrids, and eternal life technologies. And, as was predicted early on, there are potentially darker military applications that could arise from this new knowledge. Both the U.S. Department of Defense's research arm, DARPA, and its Russian equivalent are reportedly in a race to create a superhuman soldier with human intelligence and brute physical strength. Of course, a dream can become true very soon to military-industrial complex industrialists, and who dream about incarnation of some sort of superhuman zombie like Samson, who will work only for them. Oh boy, this is music to some people's ears. In the contrast, to many in the biblical prophecy realm, such developments harken back to the days of Noah and even the Garden of Eden and tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Of course, Jesus plainly declares in Matthew 24 and Luke 17 that the days just before his return would be characterized as the same as in the days of Noah. This technology, used for evil purposes, certainly could play directly into those prophetic utterances, and we are the first generation in human history to see such an explosive technological development that goes directly to the foundation of life itself. The ironic thing about the CRISPR-Cas9 research and technology is that, with a few exceptions, the scientific community working on it also belongs to the scientific ideology that there is no God and therefore we are only in existence as a result of a cosmic accident, an ancient lightning bolt hitting a non-purposed pond of chemical soup billions of years ago. Yet, as these same scientists uncover increasingly more information about DNA/RNA and specifically CRISPR-Cas9, they discover the unfathomable intricacies of its information, communication, and transportation systems, the very systems they hope might somehow grant them eternal life. Yet, they refuse to turn to the one who created it all, so that they might truly have eternal life through Jesus Christ. And when one considers the eternal life technology promised by CRISPR-Cas9 investigators, what student of prophecy cannot help but think of those doleful words found in Revelation 9:6, "During those days people will seek death but will not find it, they will long to die, but death will elude them." All this health and rejuvenation desire is old as death itself. It is, another story sad, scientists have found evidence that injecting young human blood into older bodies does seem to offer powers of rejuvenation, even if those old bodies aren't human themselves. In a new study, researchers took blood samples from a group of healthy, young 18-year-old human participants and injected them into 12-month-old mice, late middle age in mice years, or the equivalent of being about 50 years old in human terms. For 3 weeks, the mice received twice-weekly injections of human blood plasma, blood's liquid component, which scientists think is responsible for its rejuvenating properties. After this, scientists from California-based biopharmaceutical company compared the injected animals' behavior to young and old control groups of 3-month-old and 12-month-old mice, neither of which had received the plasma injections. The new blood made the old mice act young again, with the treated animals running around in open spaces much like their younger controls. But there was also evidence that their powers of memory had improved. The researchers put the treated mice in a device called a Barnes maze, a tool used to measure spatial learning and memory in rodents. Due to weaker memory, older mice tend to fare poorly at navigating the Barnes maze, but in the tests, the treated animals performed as well as young mice. "We see a rejuvenation effect," one of the researchers, Sakura, told. "Young human plasma improves cognition. Their memory was preserved." According to neuroscientists, the rejuvenating properties of young blood are down to the different protein makeups of young and old plasma. Plasma contains thousands of proteins, but while young plasma contains a number of proteins that can rejuvenate tissues, with age these disappear and are replaced by damaging molecules. We have, actually, now for the first time discovered that there are hundreds of proteins that change with aging. What we see in aging plasma is that there is an increase of proteins that are inflammatory, that cause cell death. As for what these proteins are exactly, the researchers aren't sharing those details just yet. But S says they not only have an effect on tissues in the body, but some are crossing over into the brain. When the team examined cross-sections of the brains of the mice that received the plasma treatment and compared them with similarly aged mice that hadn't received the injections, they saw the treated animals had greater amounts of newly formed neurons. Neurons are formed in what's called neurogenesis, which is important for our ability to learn and memorize, and the mice brains suggest young human plasma increases the process. So we need to bear that in mind while we consider the potential reach of this research, especially as the effects have only been demonstrated in mice so far. But it's not the first study to find rejuvenation in mice due to young blood. A number of studies in 2014 found that blood infusions from young mice to older mice improved the older animals' cognition and strength, although the research could be the first to find that human blood confers the same benefits across the two species. The researchers now want to investigate if young human plasma can do the same thing for older people too, and have begun a clinical trial involving 18 people with mild or moderate Alzheimer's disease. If this trial proves successful, they hope to follow it up with a larger study involving more patients and greater plasma doses, to see if neurogenesis stimulated by young blood can counter the inflammation that leads to cognitive decline in neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. They are studies to improve our life. These studies can go any direction, and ultimately God will decide if can go on or not. My point here is that we have to be knowledgeable and keep eye on things, and if something is not right, let's just do our limited part, and not support it, talk, teach and post out everywhere our concern and/or demand for more. They are trying to modify everything.